What's up guys, welcome back. TCG Metagame Breakdown for end of October going into November format of Spyrals 2017. I have a couple of topics I'd want to address here in this video for this weekend, of course from past weekend. Couple of big tournaments. For example, like YCS Dallas, and here in Europe we, for example, had the CCG tournament, but I'll come back to that in a couple of moments. Again, all sources of decklists, etc. will be in the video description, like always. First of all, I'd want to, well, it's very short, since again for the CCG in Berlin past weekend, there were 170-ish players, so that's not a lot, but again, a lot of high caliber players ready, and as you see here, two pie charts, left one is for day one, so all decks were present here on day one, and day two, I believe only top 16 was able to qualify themselves for day two, top 16 knockout, player knockout, you know, and no surprises, although something I have to address here is that for the CCG event from past weekend, Spyrals weren't legal. So Spyrals weren't legal because it's something I've read. I think there was a problem with with the distribution of Spyrals, at least with the set, so Spyrals weren't allowed here in this event, and that somewhat explains the current pie chart, which is not really different from something from, you know, past couple of weeks before the release of Spyrals. So we can compare this tournament, or we can call it before Spyrals. Nothing too many differences between, you know, the weeks before this and upcoming YCS Dallas, well, at least the analysis post Spyrals, right? Post release of Spyrals. So eventually I was able to watch the finals, but yeah, nothing too spectacular. The finals was between both Pendulum Magicians and the True Dracos, and eventually Pendulum Magicians won this particular event. This is the player here on the left. Again, no lists were available, but again, Spyrals weren't legal, and you know, just post this weekend, Spyrals are legal for the next event for something like YCS London next weekend, so the list would not really be too relevant, right? So that's it for the CCG in Berlin from past weekend. Let's switch it over to, I believe, the biggest weekend, at least for the quote-unquote new format, and that's YCS Dallas. Everyone is talking about it online on Facebook, etc. Lists have been popping up on YouTube, for example, on Facebook, etc. So again, I highly recommend checking out these lists, but again, no surprise, as something that Konami also mentioned in their article, in one of their articles on the online coverage website. Sadly, no live stream, so that's where something Europe definitely has the advantage over, you know, Konami USA. And then again, as I probably mentioned before, the top 32 YCS Dallas breakdown, 91% were Spyrals, so I believe 29 decklists were Spyrals. We had two Tricksters also in the top cut, and one invoked build. All the lists were available, have been put on YouTube, so again, check out the original list, you know, with the live profiles, etc. on YouTube. All the lists also will be put here in the background as well. As a comparison between now, at least for Spyrals, and I'll be honest, as you see around the articles that Konami posted up during their coverage, is that from the top tables and top 32, pretty much everyone and their mother was running Spyrals, right? And I'm honest, personally, I did not expect Spyrals would be doing this well with this particular statistics, right? Completely dominating the format. I definitely would have expected, you know, with Pendulum Magicians being pretty much at full force here in the TCG. One of the differences between the TCG and OCG, right, where Pendulum Magicians is lacking a lot of power cards, and you know, Masterpiece here is still at 3, Diagram still at 3, and even with all these cards legal in the TCG, they are doing jack against Spyrals. Spyrals taking up 29 spots of the 32 spots here in the top 32 cut. So first of all, I definitely did not expect Spyrals taking these high statistics, at least for past weekend at YCS Dallas. A couple of lists I saw, but eventually here is Marcelo Barberi's list. You know Marcelo Barberi, the current European champion, 3rd place at Worlds, multiple YCS tops, multiple YCS victories as well here in Europe. I highly recommend at least watching his live profile, his thought process. He always liked to go second, as he mentioned in his profile. I think he only won 3 die roll, and even then, if he would have won the die roll, he always would have let his opponent start some mind games as well here. and also one of the reasons why he liked to go second was because of evenly matched. Definitely one of the best cards, biggest cards going into past weekend, evenly matched against those established boards. Destrudo is something that we saw in the OCG, one of the most popular variants, if not the most popular variant with Destrudo. The big difference here with the OCG is that GoFu here in the TCG is still at 3, and I believe pretty much every list I saw was running triple GoFu, for most obvious reasons, right? Going into your extra deck synchro, something like Coral Dragon, or maybe Ancient Fairy Dragon, as Marcelo also mentioned with GoFu, and of course Destrudo going into Ancient Fairy Dragon to pop like a field spell, and you know, set rotation is definitely next to evenly matched, one of the biggest cards currently in the format of locking your opponent out of the duel by giving them like the Zephyra field spell or the, you know, the BLS field spell to completely lock your opponent out of their field spell zone. Well, Ancient Fairy Dragon can definitely solve that by popping the face down spell and get your own engine going by searching out your own Spyral resort. I believe the top 4 Spyral list that was revealed wasn't running GoFu nor Destrudo, but I believe it was a Kaiju variant, and at least at this moment of making the video, the winner and second place deck is not released yet, so I have no clue how they're, like if they're running GoFu or something like that. Then again, something that was like super obvious from watching, at least from seeing the OCG list past couple of weeks and months, and of course from the list here from YCS Dallas, is the amount of hand traps. Like everyone and their mother, especially for Spyrals, and at least for the other lists as well, the Invoked list was running like, how many? Like 14 or 15 hand traps? Tricksters as well, running over, I believe, 12 to 15 hand traps. It's just insane that how... and that's also something like the Invoked top 32 player also managed, at least mentioned in his deck profile, that he liked to play like a 1-card engine deck, in this case like Invoked, with, you know, Alistair being the MVP, like that 1-card MVP, and then just slap your deck full of hand traps to, you know, prevent your opponent from playing with Spyrals, and of course other decks, but you know, mainly Spyrals. Prepare yourself for that Spyral matchup, prevent your opponent from playing the game, and that's... Even though we are now in a tier 0 format, I believe, personally, I have nothing against tier 0 formats, but it's just the way that particular tier 0 deck acts. And in case of Spyrals, that's just, I believe, definitely, it's just flat out terrible. At least that's my opinion, but more of that within the next couple of moments. And yeah, of course, the full Solemn Brigade also in Marcelo's extra deck here. The last topic I'd want to point out here in the video is something that got me thinking, and that was like an article on the subreddit. Indeed, on Reddit. I'll leave the link if I can find it again in the video description. It wasn't like a small topic made by Casket Base, and again, it got me thinking. Is that his title is that even though Spyrals is tier 0 or not, Spyrals themselves aren't really special, and he gives like a couple of reasons. He's also mentioning like the previous formats of, you know, DDDs, for example, which on their own didn't really do anything since Konami released them like 2 years too late, but the thought process behind the previous, yeah, not necessarily tier 0 formats, but you know what I mean, like Performances and Pals, Zodiacs, DDDs, now it's Spyrals, all have like the same goal, like vomit your, you know, your whole hand to the field, establish your big board, have like a couple of hand traps ready to prevent your opponent from playing the game, or hopefully, you know, with your established board, hopefully they can't break it and you can finish your, at least, yeah, you can finish the game after that. That's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been like for the past couple of years, right? And now with Spyrals, it's like, okay, it's like a new archetype, they are new cards, but it's just like a revamp of Zodiacs, right? Oh, yeah, you know, but the Zodiac mirror match did have some, you know, interaction, you know, playing around the hand traps, etc. But now, if we look at like the feature matches, etc. of the Spyral mirror matches, it's like normal summon drone or normal summon quick fix, search something, activate troll and lockbird. Okay, just pass the turn, like the finals, for example. I mean, look at the finals. It's like Faisal, I believe Faisal opened the duel, at least the match, twice. His brother got like a couple of hand traps against Faisal, and then, you know, Faisal just ended his turn, and that was it, right? His brother starting like with a 2-card combo going into your Spyral resort, and Faisal immediately scooping up the game. Like, the finals only like 5 minutes for the whole thing. That's just flat out, I can't say the word, right, due to YouTube, but you know what I mean. It's just flat out ridiculous. So yeah, this article definitely got me thinking, and also what he mentioned is, again, that's the main thing of this article, is that even though Spyrals are the new deck, it's just doing the same like all the other older decks. Same for Zodiacs, same for Performances and Pals. It's just establish your board and hope that your opponent can't do anything about that, or protect yourself from like a gazillion hand traps, and, you know, like have going +10 first turn. Like, that's just mind-blowing how the game now at this current, at least at this moment, is. And that just brings me with another article, again a very famous article from Konami themselves. You remember it, I believe, from a couple of years ago. They tried to explain why they had a list, and man, this just... It came up with Zodiacs, but now with Spyrals taking up like 29 decks from the top 32 cut at the top 32 cut at YCS Dallas. We can do the same, right? Same for Zodiacs, and, you know, same for Performances and Perils earlier. It's like, okay, why do we have a list? Well, to prevent a certain situation to be locked in, players have to play a certain deck, or, you know, have one dominant deck, or have like a solitaire play deck, like 15 minutes opening turn. Well, both, or at least these 3 points, I think of, that's Spyrals, that's Zodiacs, right? So it's just now insane how the game is evolving, and, you know, people are already mentioning about an emergency ban list. Well, I don't know if we are getting an emergency list, probably not. I believe when we got our TCG list like a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, something like that, Konami mentioned that no sooner than August, right, that we would probably or might be getting our next list. So this upcoming weekend will be YCS London, and Spyrals will just be dominating YCS London as well, and the decklist will not be like very much different, so doing deck profiles will be kind of hard, right? At least, and that's something I want to end the video, is that like the explanation of how the game is, at least why the game is evolving in this particular way. Like, is it maybe bad game design, bad card design of, you know, as I mentioned before, okay, Spyrals is the new archetype, but essentially it's like doing the same as the previous archetypes. But the reason why we don't see Zoo now is because of the ban list again. So Spyrals, it's like Zoo, but, you know, different. But then again, I'm not saying that the mirror matches of both Zoo and Spyrals were the same, definitely not, but you know what I mean. Their core goal is again the same: establish your board and prevent your opponent from playing the game. And of course, and that's still one of the biggest things, Konami is still a business. They want to sell the packs, they want to sell the new cards. The ban list helps, but, you know, creating these new power cards, players wanting to buy them, is definitely something that they, you know, have to do, right, as like a big like a big company. But yeah, can you blame them, right? Okay, guys, that's it. Again, feel free to leave your opinions down below, and as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a comment or a like if you enjoyed the video. Lithium signing out. Peace.